In episode 8, we get a lot of backstory on Aunt Lydia. Now, Aunt Lydia in previous episodes had mentioned that she had a nephew, but this isn't entirely true. Aunt Lydia was a school teacher who was waiting one day for a parent to pick up her son way late, and this seemed like a negligent parent. She packed a bag of potato chips for her kid for lunch. Didn't really seem like she had it all together, and finally, right before Aunt Lydia is ready to take this kid home with her, the mom shows up. And when the mom shows up, Aunt Lydia invites both of them over to her house for dinner, and the mom reluctantly agrees. And you find out that this mom is working in a pretty skeevy dive bar and gets accosted by men a lot. The mom's not exactly the best parent, but because of her child, her and Aunt Lydia form kind of a friendship. They end up exchanging Christmas gifts, and one of the Christmas gifts that she ends up getting Aunt Lydia is makeup from her work. At this point, she had dropped the bar gig and ends up working in a department store. It's a sign that this woman is trying to improve her life. Now, at first, upon receiving this gift, Aunt Lydia isn't too thrilled, but the mom says, it just seems like you don't really have anybody. You need to get out there and try. Aunt Lydia did have a previous husband, but that didn't go well, and she really hasn't dated since. So she reluctantly accepts this gift. The mom makes mention that she met a new guy, a guy in IT, and the good news is he's gonna leave his wife for her. And you can tell that this is eating away at Aunt Lydia's moral fiber. She can't stand it, but she does love the kid. A few days later, she uses that makeup and goes out to a club and meets up with the principal of the school for a New Year's Eve party. They have a great time. They go back to her place. They start fooling around a little bit, but he pulls back. When he pulls back, she seems really hurt by this, and it seems like she blames the girl for, quote, putting her in this situation by giving her that makeup and telling her to go out and find somebody. And shortly after, she reports the mom to DHS. And even the principal, who liked her and did want to continue seeing her, is mortified by this action. And this gives you an idea of where Aunt Lydia went wrong and became such a holy roller. But in present-day Gilead, all of the handmaids are in one room helping another handmaid give birth. This handmaid's going through contractions, and while she's going through contractions, all the other handmaids in the room are treating of Matthew like shit. They're giving her dirty looks, they're bumping into her, they're even spitting in her drink. Eventually, though, these contractions subside, and Aunt Lydia decides to send all the girls home. But right before she does so, she tells June, hey, tell your friends to cool it with of Matthew. And June just acts like she has no idea what she's talking about. So Aunt Lydia sees this and says, oh, okay. All right, we can play this game. And has all of the handmaids surround June in a circle with June in the middle and is asking them questions like who's to blame for their deaths, and they all have to point at June and say, she is, she is, she is. It's basically the Handmaid's Tale version of shame from Game of Thrones. Right before it's about to end, June says, Aunt Lydia, I have something to admit. Of Matthew doesn't want her baby. And Of Matthew is mortified, pleading her case, saying it was only for a second. Now, Of Matthew is in the circle getting yelled at. She's getting yelled at that she's a sinner and she's a crybaby. And unlike June, Of Matthew can't take this and she's breaking down. After this display of shaming, the handmaids are sent home, and this is the first time June is able to ask Commander Lawrence about the Mackenzies. So June says, do you have any idea where they went? And Commander Lawrence says, I have no idea, nobody knows, don't ever ask me again. The next day, though, all the handmaids are called back in because the contractions have come back, and unfortunately, when the baby is born, the umbilical cord was wrapped around its neck, and the baby doesn't survive. You should thank me for not including that photo in this video. When June goes home, Commander Lawrence asks if it was a boy or a girl, and June says the baby died. Commander Lawrence says, well, we don't have to tell Mrs. Lawrence that. Also, if you could hang out with her tomorrow, that'd be great because you're really good with her. June gets pissed off and says, you know, you act like you care about this woman, but you don't. You know this world that you created isn't good for her, and with one phone call, you could get her out, but you keep her trapped here. You're not protecting her, you're killing her. Commander Lawrence just looks at her and says, yeah, that must have felt good, didn't it? And yeah, it definitely did. And while these two bicker about Commander Lawrence's wife, Aunt Lydia, along with two other aunts, are figuring out where to place the handmaids. And of course, June comes up in conversation. And Lydia makes mention that she never had a problem until the Waterfords, but also, when you factor in the Lawrence household, that household has had issues with Emily and now June acting up. And maybe it's time we just took June out of that household and reassigned her. So she might end up getting moved. The next day, she heads to the market with Of Matthew, and Aunt Lydia asks if she can have a word with June. And Lydia tells her that we're thinking about reassigning you, and June says, well, it's my understanding that Commander Lawrence asked for me personally. And Lydia tells her that there's other commanders more powerful than Commander Lawrence, but Of Matthew is watching this conversation go down, having no idea what they're talking about, and she's quickly losing it. And while this conversation is going down and Of Matthew is trying to figure out what they're talking about, Janine is in her ear trying to comfort her because she feels bad that she's being bullied. Finally, of Matthew just snaps and starts smashing Janine in the head with a can. You feel bad for Janine. She just keeps getting her ass kicked. A soldier comes over and tries to stop her, but she ends up smashing a jar into his neck and killing him. She grabs the soldier's gun and starts frantically looking around the room, and initially she points it at June, who has this maniacal smile on her face. And June gives her a nod, and when she does so, of Matthew goes from pointing the gun at June to pointing the gun at Aunt Lydia. And right before she's about to pull the trigger and kill Aunt Lydia, she, in fact, is shot by another soldier in the store.